This is a game called Flamme Rouge. Flamme Rouge is basically a cycling game. You are cyclists racing in a Tour de France-like competition. You've got these teams of riders that are going around the board. Obviously, you're trying to cross the finish line. How exactly you're going to set up the board is going to be dictated by these cards. So each of these panels has a letter on it, and you're going to set it up in the order of the letters. There are different tracks that you can use, or you could create your own. This is not one of the tracks. This is just an abbreviated one to fit on this board. You've got two cyclists on your team, and the goal is just to get either one of them across the finish line. One of them is your roller. The roller is kind of your well-rounded cyclist. The other is your sprinter. That's the one that can go really fast, but also in the process becomes a bit winded, and other times they go a lot slower. So your sprinter is going to go fast over shorter bursts, whereas your roller is going to be sort of good over longer stretches of track. So to start off the game, we've got our start line. You'll see each of these, there's a square, and each square is divided into two lanes, the right lane and the left lane. So one player, in the rulebook it's whoever rode a bike most recently, is going to go first. You're going to place your riders, both of them, wherever you want behind the start line. The other players are then going to go in clockwise order, placing their riders wherever they want and sort of filling in the gaps until every rider has been placed. On your turn, there's going to be 3 phases, and each phase is broken down on this card right here. Each of those phases then has a bit of a few sub-phases, and then we go on to the next phase. So the first thing we're going to do is our energy phase. All players do this one simultaneously. You're going to choose a rider, and you're going to draw cards. You're going to play a card and recycle the rest, and then you're going to repeat that process with the other rider. So again, you've got 2 riders, your sprinter, your roller. You choose one, whichever one you choose is up to you. You could choose one while somebody else chooses a different rider from there too. And you're going to draw 4 cards. Of those 4 cards, you're going to choose one. You're going to play that card face down. You take the other cards, you're going to put them at the bottom of your deck face up. These numbers are how many spaces the rider is going to move. And once you play a card, you're going to do it and then remove it from the game. The reason we're taking the other cards and putting them face up at the bottom of the deck is because whenever we get to the cards that are face up in the deck, that means we've gone through the whole deck once. Whatever cards are there face up, we're going to shuffle those, turn them face down, and that's going to become your new deck. So if you had a turn where you drew 3 cards, you got to the face up cards, you're going to take those face up cards, shuffle them, and draw your 4th, and then choose one to play. The roller, they're then going to go to your other rider. You're going to draw 4 cards, choose one, play it face down, and put the other ones face up at the bottom of the deck. Key thing to this is everybody chooses one rider, they play the card face down, then everybody chooses another rider, plays the card face down. So you don't get to look at all 8 cards and choose which ones you want to play from each set of 4. You're playing one, and then you're doing it again with the other one. Next phase is going to be the movement phase. So everybody's going to reveal their energy cards, put them face up, and we're going to move the riders forward. So let's say our riders were laid out like this. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the rider at the frontmost of the pack, and you're going to move that rider however many spaces you've played on your card. This guy got a 3, we go 1, 2, 3, and then we go on to this rider. So we're going to work our way backwards and go through all the riders. Whoever's in the front is going to go next. In this case, we have 2 riders in the same square, so whichever rider is in the right-hand lane is going to go first. So whenever you get to a space, whether you're in the left lane or right lane, you're going to move over to the right lane, unless you get to a square where there's already somebody in the right lane, in which case you're going to stay in the left lane. The way movement works is if there are 2 people on the square, you can move through them, but you can't finish on a square where there are 2 people. So if I'm red and I got a 4, I would go 1, 2, 3. So I move through these 2 riders, but then I can't land on a space where there's already 2 riders, so I'd stop here and I wouldn't get to move that 4th space. So again, everybody's going to move, and then we're going to go on to the end phase. This is kind of the key dynamic to the game, is that there's something called Slipstream. It says you're going to apply Slipstream and assign exhaustion cards. So when you're racing, if there's someone in front of you, you get to draft on that person who's in front of you. and you get to move forward while exerting yourself less. And if there's no one in front of you, then you're going to come a bit more tired than the other racers. So now we're going to work from the back forward. So before we start with the frontmost riders, now we're going to start with the backmost riders. And each of these riders is part of a pack. So anyone who is adjacent, is in a square or lane that's adjacent to your rider, immediately adjacent, that's part of your pack. So this is a pack of 1. There's a pack of 3 riders because they're all immediately next to each other. Then we have a gap. There's a pack of 2 riders. They're right next to each other. And then we've got a pack of 2 riders up here. So again, we're going to start with the backmost rider. This guy is a pack of 1. If there's exactly 1 space between you and the group of riders or the pack in front of you, you apply Slipstream, which means you get to move forward that space for free. So now this rider becomes part of this pack, and we have a new set. There's a pack of 4. It's a pack of 4. There's exactly 1 space between them and the next pack. So we apply Slipstream. So they all move forward 1 space. So this green rider has now gotten to move 2 spaces for free through Slipstream. This is a pack of 2 riders. There's exactly 4 spaces between them and the next pack. So they do not get Slipstream. So if there's more than 1 space between you and the next pack, you don't get Slipstream. And that means the opposite happens. The front riders of that pack now get exhaustion cards. So these guys who are right behind them but connected to them as part of this pack, they're fine. But these 2 frontmost riders are going to take exhaustion cards. We've got a blue sprinter. So we've got 2 exhaustion decks, the sprinter deck and the rider deck. The sprinter, in this case, the blue sprinter, is going to take their red exhaustion card, and they're going to put that at the bottom of their pile of cards face up. So this is now a card that's going to get worked into their deck the next time they have to shuffle cards. That has a value of 2. So the idea is you're clogging up your deck with worser cards. This card only moves you 2 spaces. Green roller would do the same thing. They'd take this card worth 2, put them at the bottom of the roller deck. Again, when they get to the face-up cards, it's now going to get shuffled and become a part of their deck. These 2 riders up here are at the way front of the pack. There's, again, nobody in front of them in that space in between, or there's nobody 1 space removed in front of them. So they're also going to get exhaustion cards. So each of them we get cards from the roller deck. That's the end of, the other thing we're going to do is remove the played cards. So we're going to take these cards that we played, put them here, they're removed from the game, and then we're going to do the next turn. So the reason you wouldn't necessarily automatically just take the highest number card from their group of 4 is once you've played them, they're gone, and those other cards are going to get shuffled back in and become part of your deck again. So maybe you want to save your higher number cards. So that's the 3 phases. Ultimately, we're trying to cross that finish line. If there's ever a turn where somebody crosses the finish line, that means this is going to be the last turn of the game. But it's not just whoever crosses the finish line first wins. So if this blue rider crosses the finish line first, everyone else is still going to get to finish out their turn. So if the red rider also crosses the finish line but finishes further past the finish line than the blue rider, red is going to be the winner. So on the turn where somebody crosses the finish line, whichever rider ends up the furthest past the finish line is going to be your winner. No matter what number you played, you can't go past this final space on the board. And then, just like every other round, if you get to a lane and there's nobody there, you're going to move into the rightmost lane. And if you get to that same spot and there is somebody there, you're going to be in the leftmost lane. So if there's a tie, then the rider on the right, because they got there first, that's going to be your winner. So that's how you determine your winner. That's how you play Flamme Rouge.